Well, joining us from Salisbury in the UK via Skype is Hamish DBG, a chemical weapons expert. Thank you for being with us. So here we are, 2 years on, talking about this terrible attack, and up to now, nobody has been held to account, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen anytime soon. Where would you point the finger of blame for that?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, and having been involved from the very start and having spoken to Aljazeera on the day of the attack, I still have no doubt that the regime are responsible for this. All the evidence points to them, and certainly all the evidence I've collected with Syria relief doctors has pointed to the regime. I think there is some hope. I think now that the UN Security Council resolution has been passed to investigate these crimes, and importantly, Russia has agreed to support it, that if all sides support that, then there is a very good chance, because the UN Security Council have been told to find out and detail who the perpetrators are, and I think Assad will be found to be the perpetrator. So there is some hope, and hope that these people one day will face their time in the International Criminal Court, just as the Bosnian and Serbian generals are from 15 years ago.
Well, you mentioned there what happened with the atrocities in Serbia, and many blame the international community for their initial lack of action on that. Do you draw any comparisons between the two here and the fact that there hasn't been much action from the international community towards what's happening in Syria?
Yes, no, I'm very disappointed with that. I fought in both Gulf Wars. And about 2 years ago, the British government voted in Parliament not to take action after Ghouta, which was the red line. The British government have another vote fairly shortly coming up, and they have the chance to take action, mainly to destroy Islamic State in Syria and Iraq, but that will have an implication. But I think the fact that the international community has sort of sat on its collective hands for the last 2 years certainly hasn't helped. And I think when we see the 5.5 million refugees and 1.5 million coming into Europe, that should galvanize the international community to do something. We must find a solution. And virtually every Syrian I know, outside Syria and inside Syria, would like to stay in Syria. And I think it is up to the international community to act to enable them to do that. And I think there is some hope. The safe zone that Turkey and the US are talking about in North Syria, I think will make a huge difference to allow charities like OSAM and Syria Relief to continue their amazing work in Syria so that we can get aid in there. But it's up to the international community now to act. Otherwise, this is going to drag on, and we could well be fighting Islamic State in the streets of London, New York and Paris if the international community continues to sit on its hands.
And how easy is it, in your estimation, to get a hold of something like sarin gas? And part of the reason I ask this is because of these reports now that ISIL, has been using the same chemical on the Peshmerga forces in northern Iraq. So how easily accessible is this?
Well, it shouldn't be accessible at all. However, Islamic State has used mustard gas against the Peshmerga just over a week ago. It would appear that they get hold of those chemical weapons either from Saddam Hussein's chemical weapons stockpile, which is in a town called Al-Mathana, 45 miles north of Baghdad, which Islamic State overran in July last year and controlled for 4 months, or probably more likely, when the UN took Assad's chemical weapons out of Syria last year, there was a lot of reporting that some of it went missing, and the CIA have said they believe Assad still has some deadly VX and mustard agent, and that some of those chemical weapons found their way into Islamic State. So Islamic State would appear to have some mustard agent. I expect it's in very poor condition, and they probably don't have very much of it. But this should re-galvanize our efforts, the international community's efforts, to attack and defeat Islamic State, because I think as they get more desperate, the psychological warfare campaign that they're waging so well against the international community, the ultimate terror weapon that is chemical weapons, is a key arsenal in that. And we need to make sure that there are no repeats against the Peshmerga or other coalition forces that we saw last week.
Good to speak with you. Hamish DeBretton Gordon joining us there from Salisbury in the UK.